Imagine releasing a game that's called a Pokémon clone before anyone has even played it. Then imagine selling over 25 million copies, becoming one of the biggest launches in Steam history, building one of the most active communities in gaming, and then instead of disappearing after the hype dies down, you keep improving the game until it finally reaches version 1.0. That's exactly what Palworld has done, and honestly, after spending hundreds of hours in this game, I think Palworld has become something much bigger than just Pokémon with guns. I think it's become the monster collecting game that millions of Pokémon fans have been asking for over the last decade. Today we're talking about why Palworld's 1.0 release is such a huge moment, why players keep coming back, why Steam numbers tell a completely different story than the internet does, and why I think Nintendo's legal battle against Pocketpair says a lot about where the monster catching genre is today. Let's get into it. When Palworld first launched in early access, most people expected it to be a meme. People laughed at the trailers. People called it Pokémon with guns. Some people expected it to disappear within a month. Instead, it exploded. Millions of players jumped in almost overnight. Steam servers were struggling to keep up. It became one of the biggest launches the platform has ever seen. But here's the thing, getting players through the door is one thing, keeping them there is something completely different. That's where Palworld surprised everyone. Pocketpair didn't just take the money and move on, they kept updating the game, new pals, new islands, more bosses, more weapons, better balancing, performance improvements, quality of life features, more automation, more building options, more endgame content, and update after update the game became more polished. Now, with version 1.0 Palworld finally feels like the complete experience players hoped it would become. One of the biggest reasons Palworld works so well is because it actually respects your time. You can play however you want. Want to build an enormous automated factory? Go for it. Want to spend hours exploring every corner of the map? That's a completely valid way to play. Want to capture every pal in the game? Nothing is stopping you. Want to ignore combat for a while and focus on building? You can do that too. It never forces you into one specific playstyle. The freedom is what makes every player's adventure feel different. Then you've got the exploration. The world actually rewards curiosity. Instead of walking through empty routes filled with the same encounters over and over again, you're constantly finding hidden caves, rare pals, secret bosses, unique environments, new resources, and landmarks that make you stop and think, I wonder what's over there. That's something modern open world games sometimes forget. Exploration should feel exciting. Palworld absolutely nails that feeling. Another thing I love is how many different genres Palworld mixes together. It's not just a monster collecting game, it's survival, it's crafting, it's exploration, it's base building, it's automation, it's multiplayer, it's boss hunting, and somehow all of those systems work together surprisingly well. Your pals aren't just sitting in a box collecting dust. They're actually helping, mining ore, growing crops, transporting materials, generating electricity, crafting weapons, cooking food, defending your base. It makes every pal feel useful. Even weaker pals can have an important role. That alone adds so much more depth than simply collecting creatures to battle with. Now I know this comparison is unavoidable. No, Palworld isn't Pokemon, they're different games. But I also don't think it's unfair to compare them because for years Pokemon has been the biggest monster collecting franchise on Earth. Fans have been asking for a bigger, more ambitious evolution of the formula for years, an open world that feels alive, meaningful exploration, better graphics, more freedom, more interaction with your creatures, more modern gameplay systems, and while recent Pokemon games have introduced some great ideas, a lot of fans have also been disappointed. Performance issues, technical problems, visual quality that doesn't always match what people expect from one of the biggest gaming franchises in history, features that sometimes feel underdeveloped. Meanwhile, a much smaller studio releases Palworld, and suddenly players are getting a game where creatures work alongside you, build your base, fight with you, help automate your production, and exist as part of the world instead of just being battle partners. It feels fresh, it feels ambitious, and most importantly, it feels like the developers weren't afraid to try something new. One thing people often overlook is what the Steam player numbers actually tell us. Every game loses players after launch. That's normal. No game keeps its launch numbers forever. But Palworld has consistently shown that players return whenever meaningful updates arrive. That's incredibly important. It means people aren't just checking the game out once, they're coming back. That only happens when players believe a game is worth revisiting. Steam reviews have also remained overwhelmingly positive for a reason. Players appreciate developers who continue improving their game, and Pocketpair has built a reputation for actually listening. Instead of disappearing after release, they kept working, patch after patch, update after update, expansion after expansion. That kind of long-term support builds trust with the community. Now let's talk about the Nintendo lawsuit, because there's been a lot of confusion around where things actually stand. Technically, the legal battle isn't over yet, but from the outside looking in, it appears to be in a very different position than when it first began. After Nintendo and the Pokémon Company filed their patent infringement claims, Pocketpair didn't just sit back and wait. Instead, the studio updated Palworld, removing or changing several of the mechanics that were reportedly at the center of the dispute. Things like throwing PAL spheres to summon your pals, and certain gliding mechanics involving mounts. Because those mechanics have now been patched out, the lawsuit is largely focused on older versions of the game rather than the version players are actually playing today. According to court filings and commentary from intellectual property experts, those changes have significantly narrowed the scope of the case. Many legal observers believe that the updates make it much less likely Nintendo could obtain an injunction affecting the current version of Palworld. Some have also suggested that even if Nintendo ultimately prevails on some claims, any financial damages could be relatively small compared with the cost of the litigation itself. As things stand, the court has scheduled a presentation of evidence for October 1st, 2026, with a judicial opinion expected in November 2026, which is expected to bring the case to a close. Whatever the final ruling ends up being, one thing is clear: Pocketpair has continued developing Palworld throughout the lawsuit. Instead of halting development, the team kept releasing updates, expanding the game, and ultimately delivering the full 1.0 release. For a lot of players, that's been the biggest takeaway. While the legal process has continued in the background, the developers have stayed focused on improving the game, and that's ultimately what the community has benefited from the most. The exciting part is that version 1.0 probably isn't the end. Pocketpair has shown over the last couple of years that they're willing to keep expanding Palworld. New content, new mechanics, new pals, more features. And if they keep supporting the game the way they have so far, I think Palworld could be around for a very long time. It's no longer just that game everyone talked about in January. It's become an established franchise with one of the most dedicated communities in gaming. Whether you love Palworld, hate it, or you're somewhere in the middle, I think one thing is impossible to deny. It changed the conversation around monster collecting games. It proved that players are hungry for innovation. It proved that smaller studios can compete with gaming giants. And it proved that if developers continue supporting a game after launch, players will reward them. Personally, I think Palworld 1.0 is the strongest version of the game we've ever had. And if this is the direction Pocketpair keeps moving, I'm genuinely excited to see where the game goes next. But that's just my opinion. Do you think Palworld is the future of monster catching games? Or do you think Pokemon is still king? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you all in the next one.